Hey guys, welcome back to Post the Podcast. It's been a hot second, but today we have Katie Wilson with us here today, so I'm so stoked. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm here with a very special guest, literally the coolest photographer around, Katie Wilson, but she's much more than a photographer. She's literally just a cool person. So go ahead and just introduce yourself.
I love it. You're so good at this. I love watching you do the vlog intro. Every time I try to do some kind of intro, I'm like, I don't know. I feel so awkward, but you crushed that. Hey, I'm Katie. I'm really happy to be here. I am a photographer. I live in Columbia, South Carolina with my husband and my dog. He's eating behind me. You can probably hear him. What else? I'm 25 years old. I've been doing this for about coming up on 4 years full time, which is wild. Just opened up a photo studio here in Columbia, which is exciting.
That's so cool. I saw all the pictures and I was like, that is so cool. Yes, Studio Willow. If you guys don't know what that is, aren't following it, go check it out. It's super dope.
Plug it. I love the plug.
Plug it. If you are local to there or if you want to drive, you can. It's a rentable space, right?
Yes. Yep.
That is so sick. I'm just so excited. So I'm just going to dive right in and we're just going to start talking about post starting a small business, because I just want to like pick your brain and it'll be great because I'm sure everybody else does too. So we'll just, crank it out with first, congratulations on Studio Willow. That's so sick.
Thank you.
That's so exciting. So we'll just start the first question off with, so post starting your business, how did you start that? Like, was it just a one step at a time, or were you like, I'm going to do this, so I'm going to get my LLC and do all of these things, or was it like a slow progression?
Yeah, it was kind of gradual. Let's see, I've been doing photography for fun since like high school.
Yeah.
And the last few years of college, I started doing graduation sessions.
Yeah.
And so those started I did, two, I think my junior year or my sophomore year. And then by my junior year, I had enough people asking me to do more. There was like 10 on the schedule. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll charge people now. Yeah, like what? And then senior year, I had like a whole, there was a lot that year. And so I was like, okay, there's a lot coming in. Like, this isn't just a hobby anymore. Like, people are paying me money to take a photo. So I'm like, this is cool. And at that time I was actually working at a photography studio in Columbia. Kickstand Studio is the name of it. They're still around. They're awesome. They do more like commercial type sessions. Yeah. Real studio, all the equipment, all the good stuff. Learned a lot there. And so I was there for a year and they were going to bring me on to do all of their weddings. And so I remember talking with my boss and he was like, hey, I've been there, like, go do your thing. If it doesn't work out, you can come back. Like, it was a really great relationship there. So he kind of like sent me out that day, literally the day that I talked to him. He was like, all right, well, give me your keys, like, go chase your dreams. And I was like, I don't have anything booked. And I had a few grad sessions booked, but it was really like, oh, I'm just going to do this and we're going to see what happens. So that was the spring of 2018. That was the spring that I graduated, left my job, started my business all like within a couple weeks. And so I did go ahead and get my LLC and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to 100% do this. And my parents used to tell me growing up, like, while you're young, like, that's the time to fail. Like, before you have kids and other people to provide for, like, mess up while you're young, you'll learn quick. And so I had a lot of encouragement going into it and just kind of started. So like the hobby, the actual craft was like a slow burn. And then the starting the business was just like, within a week. Do it. I was like, all right, we're doing it.
I feel that. You're like, let's
one wedding book, a couple of grads. Yeah. So that was it. So awesome. That's pretty much the intro to that. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah, it's funny because like what you were saying about the grad sheets and stuff, like I so relate to that. Yeah. Because at first for me, I was like just hanging out. One of my friends was like, hey, will you like take my grad pictures? And I was like, sure. And then it's so funny because like you were saying, it just kind of like snowballs. And then by your senior year, I realized like people were charging like a lot of money for like a grad session. And I was like, oh, maybe I should like charge a little bit for these. I've
I feel like I'm in a newsroom where it's like delayed and I like smile
I
for a
know.
minute and then wait.
And you're like, it's like the live shot, like, yep, I hear you now.
Yes.
Yep. That is so funny.
Yes.
Yeah,
but
I
tell me
was
about your, because you started.
yeah, so I was doing a lot of second shooting and then grad shoots by myself, and it's kind of like snowballed. So that's like kind of coming up for me. It's really fun. It's a very fun world to work in, and just like it's so cool. And my thing that I love about it so much is that it's so easy for me to support everybody else and not be like, oh, like it's just like it's about me or whatever, because it's like even if I were the best in the world, like I couldn't do everybody anyways. So it's it's amazing because it's like anybody who wants to do it can literally do it.
Yes, I say all the time, like people always say it's such a saturated market, and I'm like, it is, but like there are so many people who need pictures.
Going off of that, what is something like, is there anything before you started like going full time, or even right before you did like launched even your studio, that you like wish that you knew, like post after starting it, like something you wish you had known?
Just like in general?
Yeah.
Just a general thing?
Yeah.
I wish I would have known that. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can word this the right way. Basically, in college, I would see adults in the real world, and I would be like, okay, somebody has deemed them as like, you can do this task, go do it full time. When you start your own business, like you don't have anyone doing that for you. So you're kind of like, there was a while where I would be like, I'm like taking pictures kind of, and like I kind of felt like a phony because I was like, I just started this thing, like nobody hired me, I'm just like doing this. And so for a while I would look to my clients to like, if you want to shoot, like, okay, well, how much can you afford? Like I would throw the ball in the courts of the clients because I was so used to like someone else telling me how to do something. And I was waiting for some type of like affirmation from anybody that I was like doing the right thing. And what I kind of realized is like, and my husband and I joke about it all the time because he had a couple different jobs, and you get into the real world and you're like, these are just people doing things. Like, yes, there are degrees, sometimes there aren't, but it's just people doing a task and they do it well and they're the professional. And it sounds so like ridiculous to say, but I wish I would have known that I could have trusted myself a little bit more. Like, hey, I can do this. I am a professional. Obviously, if you don't know how to use a camera, maybe don't, but at this point now, like, okay, I've mastered my craft. I know where I want to be. This is like, I am a photographer, and it just changed a lot, with that perspective as I grew. I wish I would have known that earlier. Does that make sense? I feel
it does. It's really funny that you said that. I was literally thinking about that yesterday. I was like driving home and I was like, that thought kind of came into my mind of like, how come like why do I think I'm qualified to do like any of the things that I'm doing?
Yeah.
Because like you were just saying, it's like you see these people who you think are professionals because they're in the place because they know how to do that. So yeah, it's funny because it's like you can do that. You just have to realize, I feel like confidence is everything. And once you do know how to do something, that's the difference. Like that's the difference maker of like, oh, I'm confident in what I do and I know I can like serve you well in anything. So yeah, kind of just trusting in like in your abilities, and like once you have learned what you want to do, like obviously you can't just like shortcut it. Like you got to learn what you want to do. But then it's like exactly what you're saying. But I love that. So with that, talking about like owning your own business and stuff, is there like a pro and a con you can think of owning your own business?
Oh yeah. So in what category? Like in just any category, pros and cons?
Yeah, it can be anything, like pros and cons.
The pro is that you make your own schedule, you're in charge of what you do, who you book. where you live. I mean, all the, you're not tied to a desk or job or a certain boss or whatever. The con would be that also all of those things. So like you are responsible for, you know, being your own boss, making deadlines, you wear all the hats. And so that used to be really hard for me in the beginning because I didn't know how to separate like my life and my business because I wore all the hats. There's no, you never really arrive at like completing all of your tasks. So there's always something ongoing, 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, and then having like my life. It was so blended that was a big con. I think it's taken me a couple years to like healthfully understand my dog. It's like healthily understand that I can put the two apart. Even though my business is a lot of who I am, there's still some good like healthy boundaries there. So turning the cons into pros, but there definitely are pros and cons. Financially, I mean, you don't have a set salary. You're like, what you book is what you make, and then you have to put away stuff for taxes. And so a lot of things that go into the business. I enjoy that though. Like I enjoy every part of it. When I was at the studio back in college, Ralph, you're good. It's all gone. He's like licking an empty bowl. Like, why isn't there more food in here?
He's so cute.
You gonna say hi? Come here. He's so big.
Oh, he's so cute. Stop it. His little eyes. I love him.
Little old man Ralph.
He's so cute. Oh, I'm dead. That's so cute. Yeah, I feel like managing. I feel like managing. I feel like managing like your life and then working for yourself, because that's how I feel like. I feel like that's what I'm learning now. Like, how do I? Because sometimes I feel like I'm just like chasing my tail. I'm like, I feel like I'm doing. Like I literally feel like I'm so busy, and then I'm like, what do I have to show for this?
Yes.
What do you? Is there any like tips or like maybe apps that you use or stuff like that that helps you stay organized and stuff like that? Or is it just like?
Yeah. I live on Google Calendar. Like I love it. So I have everything on there, which gives me like a good bird's eye view of what's happening. I also just got like a real physical planner. And so I haven't even started using it yet, but I'm really excited to do that. I haven't had a real planner since school, and I'm like, I want to write something. Like, it doesn't really feel real until I write it down. But I have HoneyBook. I don't know if you've heard of it. Yeah. It's like a client management software, and it's very affordable, I think, for what it does, but it helps me automate payments, bookings, contracts. It's like a hub for all of my clients. And so that makes me feel very like, okay, I've got everything organized in there. And then I have like a different personal email. So does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that.
But outside of that, it just takes a little bit of self-control to be like, I could keep working, but I value my personal life enough to stop in this moment, even though I'm really excited about the shoot or whatever. And so just the boundaries are different for everybody. Like some people enjoy staying up late and editing and then having like their mornings off. I've recently been getting up early, working out, having an hour by myself with the Lord to just like literally drink coffee, worship, sleep, like just do nothing, whatever I need in that hour. And then work until like 5, 6 o'clock if I have a shoot in the afternoon, and then I'm done. Also, our schedules are different because we will work weekends, with weddings. Yeah. And so I have always had a hard time, like, I'm working when all my friends are like hanging out, but then when they're working, like I am also working. And so it's like, when do I stop working? And I've talked about this a little bit like on my stories and stuff, but yesterday was a Tuesday and I took it off as a Saturday. So I think that's going to be a new rhythm of like, literally every Tuesday it's my rest day. Like I don't pick up work. And I was telling my husband, I woke up and I had energy and I was feeling good. And I was like, I kind of want to edit like all the sessions I did yesterday because I'm excited. Like I was like happy and proud and excited. And he was like, that is when you need to rest. You don't need to wait until you're absolutely exhausted to have like a really rough rest day. Like you want to rest in a rhythm so that you wake up the next day, like ready to go and you're excited. And so today I was like, giddy about getting back to work instead of like, I'm so tired, when does it end?
Yeah.
So yeah, that one day a week really, really helps. So
yeah, that's so awesome. I love that. That's so sick. Oh, that's so cool. So also you have people that work with you now, right?
Yes, I do. I've got 2 girls that are helping me. So Jenna, she's in Greenville, and she is my associate photographer. And so I've been training her up for a while, and I will like send her out to shoot weddings on my behalf or sessions. So for instance, I had a wedding this weekend and an engagement session out of town. And so she went into the engagement session. I obviously talk with clients and say, hey, Jenna's be there. But yeah, so Jenna is kind of like a second version of Chandler. Is sometimes she's kind of like going into that and then really managing the studio. So like 2 girls at part-time. It's really fun. It's
That's
crazy.
So fun. I love that. And then do you like work out of the studio, or like you still kind of do your work at home but then shoots at the studio?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. So if someone booked the studio and I need to go let them in, I'll go there a couple hours earlier and hang out and get some work done. It's a really like, I feel so creative in that space because it's like away from my house and we have the essential oils going and there's music and it's bright. So I worked there this morning and I really enjoyed it. But not every day. Like some days I want to be in my sweatpants and I'll sit in this room and edit for a couple hours. It's totally, I mean, nowadays every day is different. So, but yeah, it's nice to have that option now.
Yeah, I love that. And it's right next to Peacewise, the best coffee ever.
Yes.
I love Peacewise. That was like, I when I moved back to Greenville, I was like, this is what I'm most sad about that I'm leaving, is Peacewise.
Yes. Y'all have great coffee up there though.
So every time I'm there, I'm like, hey, I'm back. But so awesome. What is kind of like, do you have like end goal like for your business, or are you just like because now you have the studio, is there like other like things that you're like, this is what I would like love to do, or is it kind of just like I kind of want to keep it here and grow what I got?
I definitely do. It's funny that you asked that because I've been like really honing in on my end goals recently. And it started with I don't think I burnt out from wedding photography, but I definitely had a very busy year this year and the year before. COVID, I mean, you know this because you shoot weddings, but 2021 was like double wedding year because everyone moved over and you're already booking, and it was just like got crazy really quick. And so I was like, I love this. Like as soon as I should get to a wedding day, I'm like, oh, I love this. Like I love my job. And then when I know that I have another one the next weekend or the next day, I'm like, wow, I'm exhausted. And so I think what happens to a lot of wedding photographers is we like go so hard and book so much because we don't like it's seasonal. So you're like, I'm going to just take everything that is paying me so that I have a job. And so I've kind of been realizing that can not be great. You know, you make a lot of money and then you're absolutely exhausted and you're like, okay, there's like a balance here.
So like, is it worth it?
Exactly. Like I want to be well, but I also, you know, love this. So, anyways, just hella rambling, but end goal would be to just continue at 35, pulling it back a little bit to where it's like sustainable and I feel refreshed. And I'm like, okay, I'm, you know, I have breaks in between these wedding weekends where I can rest and recharge. And, you know, we don't have kids yet, but when we do, I'm not going to want to be gone every weekend. And so, you know, setting up 2023, 2024 to just be a little bit more chill and be at the studio during the weeks. So end goal would be to take 10 to 15 weddings a year, and then my other time be either with my family one day or you know, running the studio and teaching photographers who want to like rev up and do what I did for the past 4 years and just like literally teach them everything I know. So yeah, that's like end goal. Maybe even do some like fun commercial stuff in the studio, but
yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so sick. Yeah, I feel that. I was talking to a wedding planner the other day and we were talking about how like it's so funny because the day after a wedding, like I feel like I have like a wedding hangover. I'm like I wasn't drinking, but you feel like the next day you're like
the real thing.
Yeah, it's like what just happened? Because
my
you were
legs
like
come home throbbing. So cold will like massage my legs for me. Yeah.
Yes. So what would be going off of even that? What would be going for like people who are starting their own business, or maybe they've started their own business, or even like maybe me, like in the middle of that process where you kind of have something but you want to keep going for it? What are kind of your best tips on like post starting any kind of business, or if it's in the creative world?
Probably best tips
or / advice.
yeah. There's like 500 things I could say, so I'm trying to like not
no, you can take a second and like just think about it.
I would encourage you guys to just like be okay with where you're at. So like when you start out, it's going to be not like you're not gonna be slam booked and like been making all this money. Like it is like a gradual process. And so don't like work yourself to death. Like you still deserve to have a weekend, even though you're like starting a business. That sounds like silly to say, but truly like you need to take care of yourself as you grow your business because you want it to be sustainable. I feel like I went like all the way up and I'm like trying to come back down. And so there's a way to reach out to people who are doing what you want to do and pick their brains. Like, I did that all the time when I was starting out. I remember DMing photographers being like, hey, like I want to do what you're doing. How'd you get there? A lot of people didn't respond. I'm just kind of like not the best. I think that culture is changing though. And so it really is like the community's beautiful, especially in South Carolina and East Coast. But I would just suggest like asking a bunch of questions, being okay with watching your work grow. So like if you're not, if your edits or your shooting isn't where you want it to be, like know that every single picture you take from this point is getting you to where you're supposed to be. Like you just have to go through like let me just figure it out. I always say like you have to take a ton of bad pictures to get a good one and to learn how to make a good one. And so when you take a bunch of bad pictures, like know that you are on the journey to like getting the good ones. But yeah, community is big. Knowing your value is really huge. Knowing that I'm like valuable outside of my work is, mental health wise, just really great because, something goes not the way that you wanted it to go. It doesn't come down on like you as a person. It's like, hey, this is my business. Like, this is an extension of who I am. How can I like pull back, make this the best that it can be and know that I'm like still doing very well. So yeah, I have so many tips, but those are like the main ones that I can think.
Okay, I love that. Yeah. And also, so question. So when it comes to like, like knowing your value and like even as far as like pricing wise. So obviously like I've like checked out your stuff, all that stuff. And like even on your website, it's like, I think it's like, oh, like tell me your budget. How did you come to like that conclusion, or how do you kind of like price yourself? Because I think like a lot of people, even including myself, it's like, how do I put a price on this? Do I just charge what everybody else is charging? Or, because it can be crazy.
Yeah, it can be crazy. But I love talking about pricing. I think it needs to be talked about more often, honestly. Starting out, I always suggest that if it's something that you haven't done before, do it for free first. Like, if you've never done an engagement session before, go do one for free or style your own so that the next one you can be like, hey, I've done this before. I know what I'm doing. Here's what I charge. It's hard to charge for something that you've never done before is generally what I'm saying. At that point, once you're like in your business, you definitely want to take into consideration like all the Lightroom subscriptions that you've purchased, like just the things that go into running a business. I think a lot of times people think like, oh, just snap a picture of me. And it's like, it costs money.
It's like, do you know how many reoccurring subscriptions I have?
No. Right, exactly. But yeah, when it comes to price, I've changed my price a lot in my business. I think I was really underpriced to begin with, and then I may have gone over, and then you're like always trying to find like a medium. But the biggest thing is that when you give someone a price, you're saying, hey, this is what I'm valuing, what I'm offering you at. So if it's really low, people might, be a little bit hesitant, like, why are they so cheap? Like, do they know what they're doing? Are they confident in what they're doing? And then if you're too expensive, it's like, I can't afford that for pictures. What the heck? So there is a balance. In mentorships, whenever I have mentorships with photographers, we'll pull up like my pricing sheet, their pricing sheet, and like go through the numbers logistically. It's hard to say it on like a podcast because there's so many different people listening, but generally, like, it's when I started to raise my prices, I saw a difference in the way that my clients treat me. I think that's the most important thing, is that when I started valuing what I did at a higher level, which, translated into a higher price, people were like, oh, this is a higher value of what I'm being offered. And so like some of my really cheap weddings were the most like controlling and not trusting clients, whereas some of my most expensive weddings were like my most trusting clients. And so I saw that correlation like happen, and it occurred to me like, oh, my price is saying, hey, this is what I'm valuing myself at. So if someone thinks that they're getting something of lower value, they might be hesitant to trust you and might want to like put their input in, which, as a creative, like you have to have trust or it just like crumbles. And so if you're listening to this and you're struggling with pricing, and you have maybe like not super high prices, maybe try bumping it up $50, $100, whatever it might be per session, whatever it might be per wedding, and see if that changes anything. But it's hard because it's art. It's hard to like just have one price.
Yeah.
I remember doing sessions for like $50 for like an hour, and I was like, I'm spending like 10 hours on this. Like, how does that make sense? And so, yeah, it's definitely something to figure out. And I still edit my pricing today, depending on, travel, location, all the things. So, yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's so cool. I feel like that is, no, I loved it. I feel like that is definitely what a lot of people are trying to figure out. And like, that's kind of where I'm at. It's like, well, how much and like, how do you negotiate this? But I like how one, you were talking about like, do it for free once. And then, try bumping it up if you need to. But I love that so much. Tell me a little bit about Studio Willow and how that came to be, like an idea, how you made that idea into like a reality.
Yeah, it was a long process. It's been something that we've been working on for close to 2 years, to be honest.
Wow.
It started, when did it really start? I think I went back in my journals, and the first time I was like writing about it was January of 2020. Okay. So coming up on 2 years ago. And I was just scribbling out, oops, did I lose you? Okay, no, you're here. I was just writing out like, man, there are so many young creative people that I'm meeting and coming into contact with that don't have like a home base, that they're just like, okay. So many people that don't have a home base, don't have like a mentor, don't have someone like helping them. And everyone's just kind of like trying to figure out photography on their own day. And the topic of the sermon was about tithing. And so anytime you go to a church service about tithing, you just kind of like check out, you're like, okay, I heard it, whatever about it. And I so specifically remember hearing the Lord be like, who you are, and the way that like, specifically your tithe and your, not just money, but time and effort and like whatever life with me, with Jesus, is what sets you apart, not anything editing or whatever. Like he basically was like, you're free to share all of it, because you don't have, like, there's not going to be any fear of lack, basically. And I felt so like, oh my gosh, like there's no, like people say community over competition, which is great. And I'm with it. It's so overused though. So it's hard to like really know what that is, but that was my heart. And I really felt like that day 2 years ago, the Lord was like, yeah, you are always going to be taken care of. So you are completely free to share everything that you want to share. Like share it. Other people are going to be blessed. And the word flourish was just like heavy on my mind. Like letting other people flourish as I have flourished. And so, yeah, that's kind of the start of it. And then a couple months later, was at Peacewise. I did a Valentine's Day market with them. And so I had a bunch of mini sessions there. And the space in between where I'm at now was vacant for like 5 years. And I saw these big windows, you know, and the sun's coming through. And I'm like, dang, this is really pretty. Like maybe I can do the mini sessions there, but it was so dirty. It didn't work out. Long story short, that connected me with the owners of the coffee shop. And about 6 months later, they called and they're like, hey, I think we're going to go into that space. We really want to share it with somebody. Coffee and a studio kind of sound like they could go together. And so that's when we started planning. And then the initial lease was for January of this year, and it took a long time to build and get contractors to like give us the okay. It's a very small space, but it took a long time to hang lights and build a wall and paint it and all the stuff. So yeah, that was the heart behind Studio Willow. The name specifically, willow trees are all throughout the Bible, and in Isaiah, I want to say it's 44 or 45, I can't remember. I think it's Isaiah 44. Talks about willow trees kind of on their journey, yada yada. And I was like, that is what I want this place to be. I want it to be a haven. I want it to be like a place of shade for people to come stay for a while or pop through, and come make the art that they want to make and just kind of figure out who they are, what they want to be. No pressure. Yeah, that was it.
I love that. That's so sick. I love your heart behind everything. Like it's so genuine and it's so cool to see that. I love it. I was gonna say something about the studio, but I think it's so cool. I love the look of it too. It's such a vibe. So great work. I love it. Yeah, that is so cool. So I want to be super respectful of your time. So I'll just kind of end on one more note of maybe any other last like advice for people kind of doing this, or even people who maybe like look to you for advice or whatever. What like you would tell them?
Like photographers specifically?
Yeah, we'll focus on us this time.
Yeah, I'm like, who am I talking to? Okay, yes, for photographers, advice would be that this is a really fun job. It's also a hard job. So it's okay if you're like, this is stressful, but I love it. Like, it's just, I just want to free you up that that's okay. That's like super normal to feel that way. But I would encourage you to, take care of yourself. I feel like it took me so long to realize that I am like, my work is going to be like successful, sure, but like I'm valuable outside of that. And so what happens is, as I receive my value as a daughter of the King, like Jesus literally, he doesn't care what I make or do, like he loves me and he's proud of me. And so when that is my anchor, then I can do anything with my business and I can enjoy it. And it's like lightweight, it's not heavy. Someone doesn't like your edit and they edit over it, it's not the end of the world. Like, it's just a picture. And I like, anytime I get super stressed out, I'm like, it's not brain surgery, it's photography. Like, is it, serious and important? Absolutely. But like, you're good, like you're doing good. And it's art. It really is art. There's no, right or wrong way to do it. There's going to be trends that come through, like, flash or no flash, or grain or no grain, or like all that stuff's going to change. So don't let it be a heavy thing when it changes. And when you want to change, like, enjoy making the art, and don't like lose yourself in the process. That's just a huge thing for me, and always will be, is specifically with photographers, our work is so much of who we are, right? So like, we almost want to connect it because we're like, I'm proud of it and I made this is who I am. But untethering the two is so much more sustainable for your clients, for you, to just like enjoy your life and also be proud of what you do, but no, that's not like the whole of who you are. I just think that's really important, because then things can get weird if, you know, your whole life is photography and, you know, someone says something lucky. So yeah, let the Lord be your anchor. Trust that he's got you. I can talk about that for another 4 hours, but generally, you are just so safe in the Lord, and you get to enjoy your job from there. And so that's what I've been doing for the past 4 years. It's worked out. I feel very safe and taken care of by him. And I'm also, you know, enjoying it a lot more than I used to. So
that's so cool. I love it. And I love what you said earlier about kind of like not gatekeeping and like just keeping everything to yourself, because it kind of ties back to what we talked about in the beginning. Like, we can't do it all anyways, and like, why would I want to? And that kind of takes me back. There was this sermon that I was listening to one time. I can't remember who it was, but I remember she was saying like, no one can steal your purpose. Like, no one can steal what you're here to do. And so the best you can do is just like bring everyone else with you. Like, let's all go up, you know?
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'm
excited for you specifically with all of your photos. They look amazing.
Oh my
and
gosh,
congrats on your engagement. We haven't even talked about that yet.
Thank
You put a ring on it.
He did. But thank you so much just for hanging out with me and like being able to make it work. I know your schedule is crazy.
This is a great break in my day. I was excited to just chat and hang and drink my not so great pumpkin coffee and try it later. But it was
I love it
with you.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Yes,
Really
I'm
honored.
so excited.